We are here to give you a little bit of information and also answer your questions about the Strategic Social Media Certificate that we offer in the Department of Communications here at JU. So just to give you an idea of what we'll be covering, we are going to talk to you about the certificate. We'll talk about the courses that are involved, both the required and the electives available. We'll also talk about some of the different types of learning opportunities that we have within not just the strategic social media courses, but also communications courses in general. And then we'll also give you a little bit of information about working in the social media industry, the kinds of jobs that you might find, and what kind of growth there has been in that industry. And of course, we definitely want to leave plenty of time for you to ask any questions that you have about the certificate in general or particular courses that you have been looking at. Before we get too much farther into our conversation, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Anne-Marie Kent-Willett, to tell you a little bit about herself and what she does in the department.
Well, thank you, Dr. Barclay, and welcome. We're so happy to have you here with us this evening. I am recording this session because we do have quite a few people that could not join us live, but we'll be sending out a recorded link to this session. So thank you for joining us live. I am Dr. Anne-Marie Kent-Willett. I have been here at Jacksonville University, believe it or not, coming up on 20 years this January. So I am a professor of communication. I function also as the chair of the department, and I also serve as the executive director for global teaching and learning. So I have a bachelor's and a master's in communication, and then I have my doctorate in educational leadership, which is the degree that really focuses on the running of educational institutions. So that's also something that I'm really interested in. Happy to be with you this evening and look forward to sharing a little bit more about the program with you.
I am Dr. Courtney Barclay, and I'm an associate professor of communication. I have all of my degrees are from the University of Florida, as you can see, and I started with a bachelor's of science in public relations, and that's really where my love of the use of social media comes from, and my interest in how different brands are using social media platforms in different ways. So the development of this certificate has been a really exciting part of my career at Jacksonville University. A little bit about social media in general before we look at our program requirements. Just to give you an idea of the scope of social media, when we think about advertising in general, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. When we look just at social media advertisements, so those advertisements that you see with the promoted post label or that little I label that if you click on it, it says, "Why did I get this ad?" If you think about those ads that you're being served every day on social media platforms, that's almost $90 billion just here in the United States. So it's a growing industry. It's had exponential growth over the last 10 years as we've really seen how we can harness the power of social media and how many people are on social media. Because companies are spending so much money, they also need experts and specialists to really tell them what the best ways to do that is and where to put their resources. So that's one of the reasons that it's a growing field. One of the reasons that they're willing to put so much money into social media advertisements is because of the second statistic that you see there. 71% of consumers, once they have had a positive brand experience on social media, are willing to talk to their friends and family, recommend a brand just based on that social media experience. So that's a really important way that brands can really build relationships with their customers that really traditional advertising never accomplished. And then we're also seeing, and something that is a really important focus of our program, and that Dr. Willett can certainly speak to much more as we go through the required courses, is the need and demand for video content. And so as we start to look at the way that social media has changed, we're seeing a lot more resources being devoted to video on social media. And that content that you see, and that includes live videos, that includes, paid social ads that include video, but just video content in general. In fact, YouTube is the third largest search engine in the world. So it's like slightly behind Google, which owns YouTube, but they still differentiate them. And so that's becoming a really important area of growth. And so employers want people who understand video content in ways that a lot of potential employees will not. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Willette, and she can walk you through the required courses and some of our selections of electives that you have available.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Barclay. So yes, one of the first courses that you're going to see here on this little chart is the COM 217 class, which is the Introduction to Multimedia Journalism. I worked as a broadcast journalist before moving into higher ed. So I worked in television and, worked as an on-air reporter, as an anchor, as you start as a producer oftentimes. So the Intro to Multimedia Journalism is a course that is required for all of our COM majors, and it's also required of the Strategic Social Media Certificate, regardless of whether you're going to be using it. You would be so surprised at how many different ways that you use video in the business world, in the marketplace right now. So sort of learning that from the ground up, the proper way to successfully tell a story using video and words in a very short period of time, even learning how to tell a video using what we call silent video. So that's one of the courses that is required. It is offered every semester. I'm actually running it over the winter session as well. It's a course that I really encourage students to take early in their academic career, because you can use the skills that I teach in that class to go and create really successful presentations for other classes as well. The next class that you'll see on the list is online journalism. That is taught by Dr. Keith Saliba. That really focuses on creating content for your website or writing for a blog, writing using using digital media, and focusing on the writing that is associated with that. The next class on our list is taught by my colleague, Dr. Barclay, and it focuses on social media management. So we know that you use a lot of social media, but what you are going to learn in this class is how do you reach a specific audience? How do you study the data to make the decisions about where, what vehicles you use to actually reach an audience? And, you may have found out about this session this evening through social media, because we recognize that, certainly flyers and word of mouth is great, but really if we want to connect with where our students are right now, social media is probably the best vehicle that we have. So you'll learn all about the management of social media. And then we leave room in this 4-course sequence for you to select an elective. We have some recommendations about what electives make sense. And we would be talking with you along the way to make sure that you're on track. But on this next slide, we're going to share some recommendations for elective courses. So after 217, there is the next level up is 317. And that is, now that you've mastered the sort of basic skills, we move on to more advanced projects, sort of a little bit longer, and really finessing the storytelling skills using video. Dr. Barclay teaches a course called Visual Communications, which focuses on a great deal of the non-video visuals that are used in social media across many different platforms. I also teach a course, this 332, Writing for Multimedia, focuses not just on writing the scripts for the video, but also the different types of writing that work in the different platforms and social media. So you should be writing very differently for Twitter than you are writing for Facebook. And we get into the details of how that works and run some social media plans as well. We also offer practicums here within the communication department where you have the opportunity to be part of the student media organization and earn credit for your work. So I have the Dolphin Channel. Dr. Barclay has FinCom, which is our public relations agency here on campus. We also have a radio station, Dolphin Radio, and we have the newspaper, The Navigator. So all of those are opportunities for you to earn credit as well that could be applied to your strategic social media certificate. Professor Staus teaches a course, Communicating to Diverse Publics. That's also a course that could be used towards your strategic social media certificate, where you really focus on attending to the needs of your audience and what an audience, the diversity in the audience and how that you reach different specific audiences. And then from time to time, we offer special topics in communications. I usually teach a course with our study abroad program in Italy, and it is sort of a theme-based course where the location of the Amalfi Coast becomes our theme, and it's communication, culture, and the Amalfi Coast. So we create video stories, we create blog posts, we take a lot of photography. We are telling the stories in pictures and words, and then sharing those stories all over the world using social media to send those stories out. All of our programming in the strategic social media is really designed with you, the student, in mind. We have a goal, and that goal is for you to complete the program with a very polished, professional digital portfolio that you can then share with potential employers, that you can use when you are going for competitive internships. But in addition to really learning the coursework, we also want for you to leave with some excellent sample work that you have successfully completed while studying with us. Okay, so in addition to the practicums, some other ways that we can really help you engage in the hands-on learning once you study the theory, you've come to understand why the decisions need to be made, or how the decisions need to be made in the field of communication. We, as we mentioned, you see the picture here with the student media. We have award-winning programs. Dr. Barclay and her students in FinCom have won a host of awards. The students in the Dolphin Channel also are highly decorated and have won awards and scholarships for their work. That is something we are always looking for new students to get involved, and can be a very meaningful part of your academic experience. As I mentioned earlier, as the Executive Director of Global Teaching and Learning, I'm very involved in study abroad. We have partnerships, specific partnerships in both Italy and Spain. And the Italy partnership really does have a communications focus, where you can take some courses that, again, that 452, but also count for the certificate. And then Dr. Barclay is going to share a little bit about some of the project-based learning that goes on in some of her practicums and classes.
Great. And some of our students, when they travel abroad, are lucky enough to have some internships as well. You know, it's a very selective process, but that's a really great opportunity paired with that program in Italy.
The international internship. So that is something that, as Dr. Barclay mentioned, we have available for our students in Italy. This would be ideal as you were completing your junior year, maybe, completing your sophomore year, a rising junior, or if you're finishing your junior year and a rising senior. So again, another really exciting and differentiating program that will help you build a resume.
And if travel is not possible for a variety of reasons, we do have a lot of experience-based learning right in our classes that we build in. So for example, in the social media management class, Com 325, I have my students work with either real world or simulated clients, where you actually are making decisions about what gets posted on social media. You might have budgets to work with for paid social, particularly as we do sort of online simulation work and you can test out different messages and see how that would perform in the real world. And so you do, as Dr. Willett was saying, you do get to walk away with some really valuable portfolio pieces. In a lot of our other classes, we also include community partners. Some of our classes actually have service learning designations as well, as we partner with nonprofits. So there's a lot of opportunities to really get experience and not just sort of get the textbook learning, but really put those principles to work in the real world, gaining that portfolio experience and building your resume even within required courses. As you are looking at moving into the real world with a job, just to give you a little bit of information about the benefits and why this is such great timing to add social media certification to your resume, this is an industry that's projected to grow 9% in the coming years. And I've listed here for you just some of the job titles that you might find if you're looking around on LinkedIn, for example. Social media manager, content strategist, brand manager, digital media supervisor, and all of these jobs are really going to be focused on managing a brand's reputation in the digital space. So understanding how to reach those audiences through social media to really build those positive relationships, encourage people to share a brand experience with their friends, their family. One of the things that brands have recognized is that particularly millennials and Gen Z consumers are much more likely to purchase a product or buy a service if it is recommended to them by their peers. And so that relationship on social media and encouraging that kind of sharing brand messages is becoming so much more important at really reaching out to new consumers, but also retaining your existing consumers. So as I said earlier, there's a lot of resources being devoted to this. And as a result, there are a lot more jobs popping up in this area for dedicated specialists. Gone are the days where social media is relegated just to an intern, but now we're starting to see brands really turn their attention and devote the time and energy necessary to really have successful social media portfolios. Some of the skills that you will walk away with and be able to add to your resume are some of the most desired skills by those employers. So LinkedIn and a host of other job sites routinely categorize the top skills that employers are looking for. And I've listed some of the top 10 here: creativity, persuasion, teamwork, adaptability, emotional intelligence, affiliate marketing, analytical reasoning, user experience, video production, and communication in general. Now, some of those you probably recognize. Some of them you might not be too sure about. So for example, affiliate marketing. That's all about building partnerships between brands so that you can link to and from each other's websites and products. That's working with brand influencers, social media influencers. And so really understanding that process is not just an added bonus on someone's resume now, but now it's a top in-demand skill. And that's something that we would cover across the certificate curriculum. Certainly video production is a growing skill that employers are looking for. And as Dr. Willett talked about, a lot of our courses are going to give you a variety of skills in that and set you up for success, knowing how to use industry standard software, but also knowing how to do that sort of in a quality way, but on the fly with your phone. And so, we will help you understand how to do that in a variety of environments. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the benefits of our certificate program. And I think it's a great time just to break and see if at this point you have any questions that we can answer about the program in general, or any of the specific classes that we've mentioned, or specific opportunities.
Now, if you're ready to get started with your certificate now, here are 2 steps you can take right away. First, using the forms on MyJU, go ahead and declare a minor in strategic social media. This will help us know how many students need this strategic social media courses and it will also help us give you priority into the courses you need to complete your certificate. Second, you can register for COM 217, the Introduction to Multimedia Journalism course that Dr. Willett discussed earlier. There are still open seats for the winter and spring sections. Thank you for joining us tonight for this information session on the Certificate in Strategic Social Media. Be sure to follow us on social media for all of the updates on the Communications Department at Jacksonville University. And don't forget, you're welcome to email us with any questions you have on the certificate or any of our other programs.